Alex Price Award, the most prestigious accolade that any Volvo dealer can receive. The award that singles out the most outstanding practitioner of customer care in the entire Volvo network. With so many excellent dealerships to choose from, the judges of the Alex Price Award have got their work cut out. Year after year, they raise standards and turn the searchlight onto many dealerships from all parts of the country.
So perhaps it came as a surprise to many when in 1987 this dealership won the coveted recognition for the second time running. No contestant has ever received such a long-standing accolade to its standard of customer care, but then no dealership has quite managed to display such an overwhelming commitment to its customers. At least, not yet. 1988 will be the year that Tyn Lon supremacy is challenged yet again. But before the judges start their long round of assessments, Barry Bainham, the dealer principal of Tyn Lon, has generously agreed to open his doors to everyone in the dealer network. Through the eye of the camera, we'd like to give you an insight into what makes Tyn Lon tick. And if you think you can't learn anything from such a strange place as this, think again. Anyone who puts that on their door has got to have something interesting to say.
Tyn Lon is an average-size Volvo dealership, employing 32 people and retailing approximately 240 cars a year. The premises are in a tiny village with a mammoth name. On the picturesque Menai Straits. In summer, coachloads of tourists stop by to photograph the village name above the door. The locals wisely skip the formalities and simply refer to the place as Llanfair PG. Tyn Lon's catchment area includes the island of Anglesey and a slice of mainland Gwynedd. The main towns are Holyhead, Bangor and Carnarvon, with a combined population of 91,000.
Despite the rural surroundings, most of Tyn Lon's customers are drawn from the professional or business class. We met 3 typical customers and we'll be hearing their comments throughout the programme.
Mr. Bernard Smith is a writer and accountant who's bought 2 used cars from Tyn Lon. Mrs. Jill Ankers is in charge of public relations for a new tourist venture in the village owned by knitwear manufacturers James Pringle. The 340 is her company car. And Mr. Williams is a local headmaster, an ex-mayor of Anglesey, and an active member of various public bodies, including the Sports Council. Mr. Williams has been driving for 35 years, and he's on his 6th Volvo.
Now, lest you think that we scoured the countryside for some exceptional customers, let me give you the results of the latest nationwide Customer Satisfaction Index. Top of the list, with a score of 941 out of a possible 1,000, is Tyn Lon. Since they won the award, they've actually increased their standing on the CSI.
On top of that, they've just won the VPMA Masters Award as the top dealership in the UK ahead of Target on sales, service and parts. So you can see they've not been resting on their laurels.
So where do we begin to tell the story of Tyn Lon? Well, do you remember this? Yes, do it right. The training programme that focused everyone's attention on the 5 facets of customer care. Here at Tyn Lon, you will see these 5 facets of customer care in constant use in everyday situations. You'll see some familiar actions and some unusual customer care initiatives. But what you won't see are dealership staff self-consciously going about the business of customer satisfaction. Nobody says, "Have a nice day." After all, nobody's trying to clock up brownie points on the Customer Satisfaction Index. Instead, caring for customers is a way of life. So, to make our task a little bit easier, we've related this multifaceted approach to customer care to the 5 basic facets, starting with communications.
This is what British Telecom call your business lifeline. It also doubles up as a tripwire, or a fuse. which is why Tyn Lon have invested in a sophisticated telephone system, which allows people all around the dealership to pick up an incoming call. There is no receptionist. Julie, Sharon and Sylvia pick up most of the calls, but they don't have to stay glued to the spot because everyone in the dealership knows that they have a responsibility too.
It's company policy that every call is picked up by the third ring. I've tried it and it works every time. The dealership is pretty quick off the mark on active communications too. For example, every customer receives a letter from the dealer principal immediately following the delivery of a new or used car. The letter, in English or Welsh, depending on the customer's preference, ensures that the customer knows who to contact if they have any problems or queries. And they mean it. On the front door is a message from the dealer principal. I'll read you the English bit, if you don't mind. It says, if you have a problem out of hours, my home number is Llangefni 724430. And dotted all around the dealership are the home telephone numbers of the parts, service and accounts directors. As you can see, customer care at Tyn Lon doesn't go out when the lights are switched off.
Good morning, Mrs. Anchors. It's Sharon from Tyn Lon.
Nor, for that matter, when the car leaves the workshop. Tyn Lon contact every service customer shortly after their service to make sure they're happy with their vehicle. They receive a phone call or questionnaire, and again, Tyn Lon use this communication as a genuine method of improving their customer service.
I've never come across a garage where they take the time to explain to a woman exactly what they're doing, and once you've had the car serviced, they explain what was wrong with it and what they did and everything. And yes, I was very surprised at the follow-up. It was a very nice gesture, I thought, very, very good indeed.
For example, the managing director of this business said it was rather inconvenient for him to bring his car in for service. Now his car is collected and returned to his doorstep, and of course a courtesy car is left in its place. Naturally, the dealership has a systematic method of sending out service reminders and end-of-warranty reminders. And if the customer doesn't respond, the system alerts the service personnel, who promptly contact the customer by phone.
What about internal communications? Well, the managers are well aware that the whole team is happier when they know what's going on. So in addition to weekly and monthly management meetings for the parts, service and accounts directors, there's a quarterly management meeting where individual members of staff are invited to participate. This open style of management extends to regular staff meetings where ideas and progress are discussed. For example, every week, Peter Roberts, the after-sales director, posts up the latest results on parts availability, workshop hours and service visits against targets. The mechanics are naturally interested in this information because they receive a commission based on these results. If communications are the nervous system of a business, teamwork is the muscle that gives it strength. Team spirit is a key criteria of the Alex Price Award, yet it's one of those qualities that's very difficult to assess. Of course, the customers are the first to sense the presence or absence of team spirit.
They don't convey the impression to the customer that they are management, mechanics and cleaners or office staff. They are members of a unified team. And the important impression that I get when I go there is that I'm the most important person there, none of them.
There's obviously an excellent feeling of team spirit in the place from the minute you go in. Each person has a great deal of pride in their own job, and they all realise that each individual job is equally important. It's as if they form part of a jigsaw, and each person doing their bit obviously creates one perfect jigsaw in the end.
I have the feeling about Tyn Lon that once you buy a Volvo, once you become a customer of Tyn Lon, you are a member of the family, and there is a concern about that family. That's the kind of service that I find they give you.
Now, every successful team needs good leadership, and at Tyn Lon that leadership is provided by a strong management group. Since June last year, Peter Roberts, his brother Terry and Jeff Bullock have been directors of Tyn Lon. Although they've always been dedicated managers, it's only natural that this has resulted in even more commitment to the aims of the business. And as we've seen, they're actively involved in the decision-making process. So Barry Bainham has succeeded in creating a strong management team to share the responsibility, the ups and downs, and take the business forward. But how does this team spread their enthusiasm to the others? Peter, what about the rest of the team here?
Well, we have a good team of people here, and we're very careful to recruit people who'll fit in with our way of doing things. One negative type, and everyone could get demotivated very quickly.
Yes, and how do you motivate people to pull together in the first place?
I think the main thing is that we all have the same goal. Everyone here knows that the aim of the business is to give our customers the best service we possibly can. When you know that, you have a very clear set of priorities. It makes your job, your decisions, and your relationships with colleagues and customers much easier and enjoyable.
So, there are no prima donnas because the customer comes first. This overwhelming focus on the customer naturally helps to break down the barriers between one department and another. And the management of Tyn Lon take many steps to prevent these traditional barriers ever being raised. For example, why should a young salesman have the use of a demonstrator when a mechanic who's been with the business maybe 10 times as long only gets his hands on a company vehicle when it's up on a ramp? Why indeed. So at Tyn Lon, the senior mechanics use the demonstrators as well as the salesmen. And the mechanics have the responsibility of maintaining them in tip-top condition. It's a fair exchange. Another example, when the 480 was launched, who had a drive in the vehicle at your dealership? At Tyn Lon, everybody had a go. Anne went on the forecourt, John from parts, Owen from the workshop, everyone. After all, a new model is an exciting event and a new opportunity for the whole dealership to enjoy. And people are encouraged to blur the lines a little between departments. For example, the showroom is open from 8 AM to 8 PM every weekday. But the service department have usually gone home by 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Naturally, a customer who wants to pick up his car after 6 o'clock doesn't want to see a close sign dangling on the reception door. And at Tyn Lon, the late arrival won't be turned away. The salesman on duty is more than happy to hand over the vehicle. After all, it's a chance to keep in touch with the customer and see if he's still happy with his car.
I think the important point as far as Tyn Lon is concerned is that they are really concerned and interested in their customers. I find that so many firms these days are interested in people when they want to buy something. Tyn Lon is different. They are always interested in their customers. You know, I can stop for petrol, see one of the staff, usual question, how's the car? No problems. You know, it all matters.
Quite often I've found with other garages that the sales team seems to be totally divorced from, say, the work side of things. But here they all seem to work equally well together, so that once you've bought the car, that's just the start of it, and they all follows through from there on.
Tyn Lon is an increasingly successful business. There's a generous bonus scheme for the staff based on achieving the company targets. But there's more than just money on offer in a place like this. People seem to enjoy their work. They believe in what they're trying to achieve. And people are proud to work for a company with such a good reputation.
Before I had a Volvo, I had heard about Tyn Lon, and having dealt with other garages, I must admit I thought it must be a bit exaggerated. But in fact, it's been a wonderful surprise. They do live up to their very high reputation. An excellent garage.
I've yet to hear anyone complaining about the service that is offered by Tyn Lon. I've been a customer for, 11, 12 years, and I've got no complaint at all about them.
But before you switch off in disgust at this utopian vision, let me reassure you that maintaining this level of cooperation and commitment is sheer hard work. Barry and his management team still put in, on average, a 60-hour week. They still have moments of black despair when things go wrong, but they keep on trying to push things ahead and improve from day to day. Delivering a consistently high standard of customer service is like tap dancing through a minefield, but it sure feels good when you reach the other side. So far, we've looked at communications and teamwork in action. Do you agree that Tyn Lon are doing it right? Why don't you stop for a break to discuss this before we move on? More and more, Volvo's trying to protect its customers from the pains and perils of car ownership. Warranty devolution, lifetime care, Careline, they're all vivid reminders to the Volvo owner that he's better off with Volvo. But when a problem occurs, as inevitably it will, how does that same customer expect to be handled by Volvo? Naturally, he expects the ultimate in efficiency, courtesy, and above all, he expects a solution. Whether he's lost his keys or mangled his engine, he expects you to come to the rescue. Is that unreasonable? Not anymore. When he parted with his hard-earned cash, you promised him a total car experience. That's what he's paying for, and that's what he wants. At Tyn Lon, they've taken this idea on board, lock, stock and barrel. No problem is dismissed as too minor or too tricky to handle. Every customer you speak to has a story to tell of Tyn Lon's prompt and appropriate reaction to a problem. And stories like that get around.
And so I got out of bed and obviously wanted the car. Couldn't find the keys anywhere. I think it would be rather underestimating my feelings if I said that the language was rather blue. But I thought, well, I'll ring Volvo's, see whether they can get a key. I rang them and they said, well, no, we have to get a key through Liverpool and you'll have to wait a few days. That was it. Well, I was stuck. Anyway, within 10 minutes, they came back and said, what's the problem? And I told them what had happened. And they said, well, if you can get a car or get someone to bring you down, we'll lend you a car for the weekend. Or if you can't, then about midday, we'll have one of the fitters free that will bring a car for you. Now, that's the kind of attitude. It was purely my fault, nothing wrong with the car, but immediately came and said, you can borrow a car for the weekend. Now, that is their customer attitude.
I had one instance, unfortunately, when someone borrowed my car and had a slight accident with it. And really, it happened so unexpectedly. I just took the car in and they just took over and did absolutely everything. They brought me another car to use, which obviously is essential in my work. And they just did everything. They got the estimates, they kept me informed of what was happening and got it repaired, all done for me. It was very, very good indeed.
The service is good. I never had to go back, and that's over 12 years. I've never had to go back. I say, well, you know, there's a noise here or a rattle there or, you know, not happy. It'll always be done. There's never a need for a second visit.
I find if you go into Tyn Lon and say there is a problem with the car, they accept that on face value. They accept that there is something wrong with it. They have proved to me on a number of occasions in the past that I've been imagining things, but they haven't told me that until they've looked and have checked it out. They regard the customer as being as intelligent as they are, and that in itself is something of a rarity these days.
The people who work here are very conscious that they have a personal responsibility to care for the customers. All around the dealership are discreet notices which carry a vital message. If a customer problem occurs, it must be immediately resolved to the complete satisfaction of the customer. Profit is not to be used as a motive in the solving of a customer's problem. The customer is and must be treated as the most important aspect of our business. And there again are the home phone numbers of the dealer principal and company directors. Terry Roberts is service director here at Tyn Lon. Terry, does this policy mean you just throw money at a problem till it goes away?
No, we don't simply spend our way out of a problem. Our first priority is to solve a customer's problem to his satisfaction. We're prepared to spend the necessary time and resources on reaching a solution without also trying to make a profit. If we satisfy that customer, we know he'll be back. In the long term, our goodwill policy helps us to retain the trust and loyalty of our customers.
Thanks very much, Terry. So in this dealership, the customer's problem is not regarded as just another profit opportunity. Of course, the dealership tries to prevent problems happening in the first place, and they do that rather well. The PDI routine is exceptionally thorough. Barry Bainham personally checks the quality of the PDI on 1 out of 10 vehicles. The quality of technical work is under the watchful eye of Cliff, a veteran Volvo mechanic with 30 years' experience under his belt. And after the service visit or vehicle purchase, there's a vital safety valve, the follow-up contact we've already mentioned. This can reveal a complaint before it becomes a crisis. And finally, the dealership is not undermanned. For example, there are 5 people in the parts department, where one might expect just 2 or 3 in a dealership of this size. Holidays, training, sickness, all this takes staff out of the dealership. The directors of Tyn Lon think that running a service business on skeleton staff is taking a dangerous risk. So Tyn Lon has the quality and quantity of staff to look after the customers properly. And this is how the customers show their appreciation.
And although occasionally as I go around and I look at the Mercedes showrooms or a BMW showroom, I always go back and say, well, I could change, could possibly be good cars, but I doubt very much whether I would have the same service. And after all, I keep my cars for 2 years. Buying is one thing. I need someone to look after me for the remainder of the 2 years before I change again. And I'm convinced that I can't find anyone who'll do that better than Tyn Lon Garage under the present management.
I believe that what little extra I've spent with Tyn Lon is more than justified by the extra service and the confidence I get.
Does this approach still sound like an expensive solution to the problems of car ownership? Well, we'll be discussing the results in some detail with Barry Bainham shortly. But in the meantime, here's proof that effective problem solving keeps everyone happy. The results of the last retention study show that 100% of all vehicles registered in 1986 still returned to Tyn Lon for service, and over 70% of vehicles registered in 1984. Could this approach to customer care do the same for you? When you practically live in your own premises, it's difficult to see them from a stranger's point of view. Yet every customer, new or old, looks at your dealership with a critical eye. When he arrives, what does he see?
Excellent. They obviously put a lot of thought and effort into their displays. My mother made my father stop because she hadn't seen anything like this in a garage before. And while she was looking at the display, my father was falling in love with one of the new Volvos that she's hoping to buy. So it's obviously very, very effective indeed.
We discovered Steve mixing paint in the local Leyland dealership. He's got a real flair for thinking up displays, and he's an excellent partsman, a very valuable addition to our team.
When you go there and you have to wait, the first question they'll ask, would you like a cup of tea? Would you like a cup of coffee? So you have a sit down, you have a chat with other customers or with members of the staff, and you have a cup of coffee and you don't realise that you're having to wait. And they always, if you're there on your own, someone will come and have a chat with you and talk about everything under the sun.
Very good, very interesting.
There is a play area for children with an ample supply of Lego, with a child-sized table and child-sized chairs.
Some days when unfortunately the weather isn't so nice, it's nice that you wind your window down, hand your keys over, and it's all done for you. And it's always such friendly service, nothing's too much trouble. Yes, it's a nice thing to find in these days of self-service. It's nice to find old-fashioned qualities of service still going strong.
You go to the garage, it's absolutely spotless. You could eat sitting on the floor, if you like, to be quite honest. It's spotless there. Not even a spot of oil there. You can walk in your best suit and not feel, oh, have I touched something or have I stained it in any way? And again, it gives you that confidence in the garage, in the shop floor, and in the staff.
I must admit, I'm not the world's best at keeping cars tidy, and they do. It is like getting a new car back. They clean it totally, inside and out, and it's beautiful.
And this is what your customers expect. Even if they treat their own car like a trash can, they expect you to be squeaky clean. In the owner's mind, cleanliness is next to Volvo-ness. Your premises may not win any design awards, but they're one of your biggest assets. Perhaps you could develop that asset still further, without a lot of trouble or expense. After all, good presentation is often down to doing the simple things right, like giving someone a decent cup of coffee. And if you can run a successful business in today's competitive environment, you can certainly manage that.
The final facet of customer care is adding value, doing just that little bit extra to differentiate your customer service from the dealer down the road. Each zone winner of the Alex Price Award goes through an even more detailed scrutiny, and providing added value is one of the key requirements of the national winner. So what impressed the judges about Tyn Lon? Well, there were so many things, we can only give you a flavour here.
For example, there's the blue-chip 2-year warranty on all used cars. A Tyn Lon used car can command a high price locally because its reputation goes before it. There's a pick-up and delivery service if it's inconvenient to bring the car in for service. And there's a free loan car always on offer.
The sales manager reckons that this service alone converts many new customers to a Tyn Lon Volvo. The fleet of 8 vehicles are replaced every 6 months. And as you can see, the loan cars would not be out of place in the showroom.
Naturally, the service receptionists take the time to explain service work to the customers, and that way they actually sell the repair bill.
With Tyn Lon, once you've bought the car, you get a total service, and it really is excellent value for money. They're reliable, they're efficient, and they're quick.
As well as adding value to the customer's experience, Tyn Lon add value to the work experience as well. For example, the mechanics have a clean, warm workshop and a pleasant canteen. All the staff are paid monthly, and there's a company pension and private health scheme too. Training, both in the dealership and at Daventry, is given a high priority, and as a result, people develop their skills and make a growing contribution to the business. It's no wonder that staff loyalty is almost as high as customer loyalty at Tyn Lon. The final example of adding value takes us outside the dealership and into the highways and byways of North Wales.
The directors of Tyn Lon believe in putting something back into the community that provides their daily bread. The dealership sponsors all sorts of local activities. A car for a children's badminton coach. A ladies' choir. A cluster of sailing dinghies made specially for local children who are learning to sail. The sponsorship attracts a lot of welcome publicity, but there are many things that the company undertakes for their own sake, without seeking any publicity at all.
For example, they've contributed to the restoration of Bangor Cathedral, and at Christmas they give a Christmas dinner for the old and lonely folk nearby. But before you all reach for your handkerchiefs, there is of course a commercial spin-off for most of these activities. The good name of Tyn Lon is carried far and wide, and the night the choir came to sing at the dealership, they sold 2 new cars. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in our tour around Tyn Lon, and I think it's only right we should end the visit by meeting Barry Bainham, the dealer principal. Barry, you've obviously invested a lot of time and money in customer care at Tyn Lon. Is there a clear financial reward for all this effort?
Yes. Let me give you some examples. Company net profit is 4% of turnover. Sales volumes of new cars have increased by 40% since refurbishment in November 1984. An average of over £400 worth of accessories is sold on every new vehicle, whereas the zone average is only 130. Finance income per unit now stands at £56. The average for the zone is 27. We have a used to new car sales ratio of over 1 to 1. And we've doubled our workshop size, increasing efficiency to 126%. All in all, we're not complaining.
So the rewards are obviously well worthwhile, but why don't more dealerships take up these customer care activities?
Over the last 2 years, the Volvo franchise has been very successful. A lot of dealers ease up when they start making money. They buy a villa in Spain, ringing up the dealership once a week, telling them to keep sending the money. I don't play golf, but running a successful business is like reaching a low golf handicap. You've got to keep working at your game, or pretty soon you'll be back down to 24. In this business, if you're not going forward, you're going back.
Barry, some people might say it's been easier for you working in a traditional rural community.
They would. But in a place like this, stories spread like wildfire. If you kick one person, they all jump. We have to take more care. A lot of the things we're doing can be done by other Volvo dealers.
Could you give us some examples?
Yes. Attention to detail, staff welfare, good communications, local community involvement, and reinvesting profits for the future of the business.
I believe you've applied some of these same ideas in a new business venture recently. Can you tell us a bit about that?
The new venture is a restaurant. We've adopted the same approach by carefully selecting staff, providing good premises which are open for the convenience of customers, giving good value for money. And so far it's working well.
Finally, Barry, if you had to summarise your philosophy, what would it be?
If you provide the right premises and employ the right staff, look after both these key assets, they will in turn look after your customers. The customers will keep coming back.
Barry, thanks very much. Well, we've reached the end of our trip round Tyn Lon, but before we leave this charming corner of Wales, let me ask you a final question. If a Tyn Lon Peugeot or ROVR dealership opened up near you, would you shrug your shoulders, or would you be forced to do something about it? Well, I hope you found this visit to the Alex Price Award winner interesting and worthwhile. Who knows, perhaps we'll be making a programme about your dealership next. Bye for now.